okay, or watching them being made. So, Brandon, there is a big difference between those two. Now, if you want to get into the concept of culture, I started a big debate with a bunch of writers around culture because I said everybody talks about it, nobody defines it. So I'm going to put that off to another time, and we'll have a session and say, tell me what you think about company culture. Company culture is a big deal, but to me, it is very specifically around two things. Who's in the inner circle around the entrepreneur, and what's the ticket to the inner circle? In the early stage of a company, the ticket to an inner circle of an entrepreneur is loyalty. It's loyalty to that person and to their vision, right? The ticket to the inner circle when you start to grow and scale has to go from loyalty to performance. And that is a really, really brutal transition because most of the people you start with around you are not going to survive the transition. And that means you have to, the best way to say it is, I was at the University of, I think it was Virginia Tech. And there was a mixture of students getting their MBAs and business people in the audience. And I was trying to explain how hard that decision was. And I picked on a young lady in the audience and I asked her name. Let's say her name is Veronica. I'll pick on Veronica over there. And I said, Veronica, who's your soulmate? Of course, she's freaking out, right? There's hundreds of people in the audience. Why does she get picked on? That's why you never sit on the front row, right? So she and I made her tell me the name of her soulmate. You know, the person that was closest to her, she's mad at her dad, breaks up with her boyfriend, whatever the case may be. You know, Veronica probably has a soulmate. So what's her name? And so she gave me her name in front of the audience. I said, okay, I want you to take Veronica, your soulmate, when you graduate, and sit down with her or him, whatever it is, and say to them, you have been irreplaceable as my friend during school. But now that I'm going out into the workplace, you are no longer sufficient to be my friend. How can you say that? Right? How can you say that? Guess what? To grow a business to scale, you're going to have to sit down with folks that you couldn't have gotten where you are without them, and you cannot get to where you're going with them. Brutal discussions. But if you don't make that, you have a bad culture. Culture is defined by people being around the top that are there because they perform, not because they're loyal. Has anybody ever been in a company where the entrepreneurs surround themselves with just people who are loyal? Mm-hmm. If you have, the culture sucks. So there's a little bit of it, Brandon. Excellent question. So now you've also gotten into a little bit of my management philosophy, right? To be honest with you, you know that management team, my old management team that helped me start Newport? I had to fire them. I talked them into retirement and replaced them. Very difficult. Very difficult. I wouldn't have gotten into another business had I not been wanting to help them out, and they were all excited about it. But once I got into it, we had to make it work, and it wasn't working. And so I had to bring in the management team that's running it now, and Newport is growing very rapidly, and people are making a lot of money in it. So there's a little bit about the management philosophy. You just teased that out of me by asking those kind of questions. One more question.
I have a question. Well, I have two.
Yeah.
Okay. One's a clarifying question and one's a question. The clarifying question is, you have the advisory services and then you have the investment banking component. Do you negotiate on behalf of the business the terms with the investment bankers, or you have investment bankers in-house?
We have in-house investment bankers.
In-house investment bankers.
They are partners.
Okay. And fact, all of them are thematic.
All of them. So investment bankers are a different breed.
Mm-hmm.
They're deal guys and gals.
Right.
They are very close to you know something about it, I can tell. They're very close to the capital markets.
Mm-hmm.
All right. They're not advisors. They're not interested in running companies. They're interested in selling companies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I have a call tomorrow because this is a client of ours, and he called me up and said, Tatum, I think we're going to need a fractional. We're going to need a CFO. You're Mr. CFO. Can you help us out? The first thing I'm doing is bringing our investment bankers in. I'm going to bring our investment banker in, and we're going to scope out what does this company need to look like to sell it for $100 million in 3 years, and then we're going to work backwards to what kind of people we need in the management team.
Okay.
So I can bring in an investment banker, but they are partners in Newport.
Okay. And then based on the structure you have in place, what's a capability that you would like to add on to your company as you continue to grow, that you foresee would be an anticipated capability you don't have today?
I think we're going to stick to these two because nobody has this unique combination targeting these smaller companies.
Yeah.
An investment banker, I mean, we've had investment bankers that have notched down $1 million fees already. And we've had advisory partners that have notched down $1 million equity components by taking equity as part of their thing when we sold the company.
Right.
So I think what we found was this unique combination, and that's what we're going to look at growing and seeing how far we can scale it. Now, merging those two types of personalities is going to be very, very interesting to do, and we're making some progress. The guy that I have running this company, Kevin Poole, is the CEO, very, very, very accomplished consultant, came out of GE, operating background. You got to love entrepreneurs to do what this does, and you have to be consultative, I say advisory oriented, not trying to turn around and turn everything into a project and a delivery. You have to have been there, done that to the degree that an entrepreneur is willing to pay you what could end up being thousands of dollars per phone call.
Right.
If you actually looked at the time involved.
Right. I work for Northern Trust, and we have business advisory services. We work with entrepreneurs, but we're not an investment bank. So we'll shop out the opportunities.
Correct.
I always wondered why it's not a full house service, because it is a missed opportunity. We will get the advisory fee, and then a lot of the time we don't even end up maintaining the assets after that, after we go through that exit.
Yeah. In fact, guess who cuddles up to us a lot?
Who?
Is your competitors.
Oh, yeah.
Because what happens is we're in there with those entrepreneurs. They want to build a relationship. So when that entrepreneur sells a company for $20, $30 million, Northern Trust, by the way, is a very, very fine investment management firm. One of the oldest and more prestigious in the country. And what's aggravating your folks is you work with these guys, they get an investment banker to sell it, and let's say it's a bigger thing, it's Goldman or JP Morgan or whatever. Well, the minute that, guess who's there at the closing? They're investment management people.
Right.
So they take those assets off.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have an investment management group, which would be a logical thing to add on.
Right.
That's a whole different business that I don't think we'll get into ever. And so the investment, the Rockefeller's a competitor.
Right.
All these guys hang around us and want to get to know us because they know we're not going to take the assets when we sell the company.
Right.
Great questions.
Thank you.
All right. Now, do you guys get what we're talking about now as it relates to an interview? You can see the difference between what you can gather looking at the company, which you should do, and then what you want to do is really get into these guys and gals' heads. I mean, I got some really cool. I've got a woman that's built what I think is one of the coolest PR firms ever, growing like crazy. And she does internal PR for large companies doing IT transformations. Never heard of it. And the story of how she got into it and how she forces the people that work for her to require certain time off so they don't get burned out. Fascinating. So what you guys are going to do is the whole course is to incite your curiosity about why businesses get started. By the way, our model at Newport, we pay out 70% of whatever we bill to the partners. And then at the end of the year, if we do really, really well, we bonus out another 10%. We run the business on 20%.